1958 saw Terence Fisher's Dracula, later Horror of Dracula to avoid confusion with the 1931 original. A kind of British remake produced by the Hammer Studios, only uses set pieces from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel and differs greatly in terms of content. For example, not only are characters such as Quincy Morris or Renfield missing here, Harker is also not, as in the original, a broker and engaged to Mina. Instead, he works with Van Helsing as a vampire hunter and is engaged to Lucy, while Mina is her sister-in-law. In contrast to the movie, daylight is not deadly for vampires in the original, it only weakens them. Dracula walks there through London in broad daylight and only loses his supernatural powers during this time. He supposedly can't transform in the movie either. For the novel and its real adaptations, see the retrospectives on Nosferatu and Bram Stoker's Dracula. (1885), British vampire hunter Jonathan Harker unsuccessfully attempts to kill Count Dracula in his remote castle in Transylvania. When his partner, Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, visits the castle in search of him, he is left with the sad duty of redeeming him. Meanwhile, the Prince of Vampires sets out to find Jonathan's fiancée Lucy for his revenge. Van Helsing tries to warn her family of the danger, without going into the supernatural elements, as this would be dismissed as superstition. They don't take it seriously, his instructions are disregarded, and Lucy's health, thanks to Dracula, increasingly gets worse until she dies. When she is resurrected as a vampire, her brother Arthur realizes what they are up against, and Van Helsing stakes her. Meanwhile, Mina, Arthur's wife, has fallen under Dracula's influence, who kidnaps her and flees back to his castle. There he is tracked down by Van Helsing, who exposes him to the sunlight, where he eventually perishes.
Every time I see you, no matter what we do.
The successful movie is considered a classic, rightly received overwhelmingly positive feedback, grossed $3.5 million worldwide at costs of £81,000, which equaled $220,000, and also appeared in 1976 as a comic in the House of Hammer #1.
There's a strange reaction. Can you feel it too?
Terence Fisher had already made the previous year with The Curse of Frankenstein, and later the following year in 1959 with The Mummy, also starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, successful remakes of classic Universal monsters, which spawned several sequels. Also known as the Hammer films, the first major genre innovations since the horror movies of the 1930s, with their explicit depiction of gory details in color. Whereby the Dracula series, Fisher also shot the first 2 of the 8 sequels. From 1958 to 1974 with 9 movies, the Frankenstein series has 7 and the Mummy series 4 is in my opinion the best known. This also applies to the roles of Peter Cushing, he played Van Helsing, or Descendant 5 times, and Christopher Lee 7 times Dracula. However, Lee, born in 1922, who appeared in almost 300 movies before his death in 2015, criticized the countless deviations from the book at the time, which is why he also played him in 1970 and 8 times in Count Dracula, included in the Bram Stoker's Dracula retrospective. The absolutely exceptional actor, trained as an opera singer, among other things, he sang in various opera houses before his time as an actor, but later also other music genres. He's considered in 2012 at 90 as the oldest heavy metal singer in history, also in 2013 at 91 as the oldest living artist ever to place in the charts, was a big fan of the novel. Also highly intelligent, he spoke several languages including German, extremely well read, among other things he was considered a Lord of the Rings expert, and also happened to be the only member of Peter Jackson's cast for the 2001 adaptation who knew Tolkien personally. In his appearance in the 1976 French horror comedy Dracula and Son, he plays a different vampire, even if the title wrongly suggests the opposite. But there are only 3 joint appearances with Peter Cushing as Van Helsing in the first, 7th and 8th movie of the Hammer series. More on Cushing, Lee, among others, in the retrospectives on Frankenstein, The Mummy and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
My heart
In The Brides of Dracula from 1960, teacher Marianne, on her way to Transylvania to take up her new job, unwittingly frees the vampire prince Baron Meinster, which directly kills his mother, who has kept him hidden to protect the public.
Every time if I didn't love you, I would look around for someone else.
On her escape from the castle, she is found by Van Helsing, who takes her to her destination, a girls' boarding school, and follows her track back, where he takes care of the mother, who has already turned into a vampire. In the meantime, the Baron has created more vampires.
But every time I see you, you have the same effect.
And the attempt to confront him in an old mill ends with a bite wound for Van Helsing, which he cauterizes and neutralizes with holy water, with which he finally hunts down the vampire, causing the mill and his undead playmates to go up in flames.
My heart starts missing a beat. My heart starts missing a beat every time.
The rather entertaining £120,000 sequel without Dracula, he only appears in the title, but now with transformations, the Baron sometimes appears as a giant bat, also received mostly positive reviews.
Every time.
No reliable data is available on the box office, but it was apparently a financial success, also published in 1983 as a serialized comic in Halls of Horror 2728.
Every time I hear your heartbeat next to me.
1966, Dracula, Prince of Darkness in Germany, Blood for Dracula, follows on from the events of the first part and begins with its final.
What it means to be with you.
10 years later, two English brothers are with their wives on vacation in the Carpathian Mountains and enter, despite warnings, Dracula's castle, which servant murders one of them and uses his blood to awaken Dracula's ashes, which immediately turns his victim's widow into a vampire, joining him hunting the remaining couple. After fleeing to a monastery, Dracula abducts the woman back. However, his pursuers manage to drown him in the icy waters of the castle moat. Although it was previously established that, similar to the novel, only flowing water is deadly to him. In the book it's called impassable, but who cares? Christopher Lee doesn't speak a single word in his second Dracula appearance, with several contradictory versions circulating as the reason. Like that the intended script lines were supposedly too stupid for him, while the screenwriter claims he had no dialogue to begin with, since vampires don't talk. Other sources claim it was at the instruction of the producer, as Lee had constantly complained about the horrible dialogue, etc. Although the movie is quite entertaining, it consists almost entirely of set pieces from what has already been seen in the original. A woman transforms right at the beginning and is also the first to be staked, see also Lucy. Her friend becomes his real target of desire, see also Mina, whose husband is one of his main adversaries, see also Harker, who allies himself with a vampire expert, here a priest, see also Van Helsing. An insect-eating, actually imprisoned madman, here a bookbinder on the loose, is loyal to him, see also Renfield. A bite wound is cauterized with fire, but no holy water this time, see the last movie, and so on. At the premiere, it was also for this very reason mercilessly torn apart by the critics. However, with an estimated cost of £100,000 and a worldwide box office with more than $2 million, it was another financial success, and was also published in 1977 as comic in the House of Hammer number 6.
Every time I see you, something happens to me, like a chain reaction between you and me. My heart starts missing a beat. My heart starts missing a beat every time. Oh, every time. Oh, every time.
In Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, a fearful priest who exorcises Dracula's castle together with a bishop and injures himself on the way there, unwittingly resurrects the count through his blood dripping into the castle moat.
You have the same effects.
who now wants to take revenge on the unsuspecting Bishop Monsignor, who blocked his way into the castle with a cross by secretly making the village priest into his slave, who is supposed to help him to get hold of the bishop's niece Maria. She's in love with a young student Paul, but Monsignor does not think he's the right man for her because of his atheistic attitude. Nevertheless, he joins forces with him in the fight against Dracula before he dies as the result of an attack by the traitorous priest. When Paul allows himself to be led by the priest to Dracula's hiding place to stake him, the vampire pulls the stake out of his chest again because Paul, as an atheist, is of course incapable of sealing his deed with a prayer. The Count abducts Maria to his castle to remove the cross, where, after a fight with Paul, he falls and is impaled by the crucifix. The village priest says a prayer, whereupon Dracula crumbles to dust. And Paul also crosses himself. Sure. In this wishful thinking of religious nutcases, director Freddie Francis is this time walking in the shoes of the Terence Fisher, who broke his leg, therefore not available. And here, especially in the scenes with Dracula, displays an unusually colorful style, with color filters and such, and Dracula also talks. Once again, he pulls many things out of his coffin. Since when can you only reach Dracula's castle by rock climbing? So that he has any kind of story at all, which consists almost entirely of the character's idiotic behavior. Paul entrusts an important letter to a complete stranger, and nobody tells anyone anything, like the Monsignor that the priest attacked him, who Paul then drags directly to the victim, who then changes sides just in time for the final. Nothing can be found out about the cost and box office of this stupid nonsense. One unproven source claims that it was Hammer's biggest financial success, and the same applies to the reviews. According to some sources, they were excellent, but I have come across almost nothing but lukewarm reviews and rants. More on the Dracula Hammer series in the second part of this retrospective, since as an atheist I obviously can't defend myself against further vampire movie attacks.